Hey, this is Allie Edwards and welcome to day 14 at December Daily for 2017. Today I am working with, or I pulled out all of these diamond shapes that were included in the main kit for December Daily. And I've been thinking about those a lot. They've kind of been on my mind. They were just, I had them slipped in here in a full page page protector, but I think I'm not gonna use that. So I'm pulling that out. And as I was thinking about what my story was going to be, I was going back and forth between letting the diamonds dictate what I was going to do with the day, because sometimes I let the product drive the story. Like, that is just a part of what happens sometimes. And other times the story drives which product I choose to use. Kind of there's a back and forth, right? And one of my goals as a product designer is to create products that help drive the story so that there's an interaction between those two things. So as I was thinking about what story did I actually want to tell today, the story that I want to tell today is about how today is a day when Erin and I are here just by ourselves. So there's no, all of the 5 kids are with their other families and their other parents. And so it's gonna be a nice, quiet, we just get to do whatever we want sort of evening, which we really enjoy. So I was thinking about, in the past I have done a scrapbook layout. I can't remember, this would have been a few years ago. I did a scrapbook layout that was titled While You Are Away. And it was basically a message to my kids that was talking about what did I do when they were with their dad. You know, so that in future years when we all look back and somebody asks, what did you do while we were gone? You know, that I have this whole kind of piece of my life that goes on that doesn't include them all of the time. And so I was thinking about doing something like that. Like, that will be the core of my story today, is the while you are away idea. So I printed out a picture. This picture's from a couple days ago. It's of Erin and our cat Sam doing a puzzle, which is something we will probably be either working on this puzzle or starting a new puzzle tonight. That's something that we like to do. And have wine or whatever we will be having. And then probably watch a show later on. We've been rewatching Game of Thrones, and then we started another really freaky show last night that's called Dark. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of it. It's a German show. It's on Netflix, based in Germany, I believe, and it's overdubbed, which is kind of weird and takes a little bit to get used to, but it's a pretty scary show. Anyway, sidetrack. But it was entertaining enough that we watched like I think we watched 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes last night. That was when kids were here, so tonight, who knows? So anyway, what I'm planning to do then, I was looking at the diamonds and I was thinking of different ways, and one of the things that I want you guys to be thinking about, and I want to communicate of the type of things that I do, is I am always on the lookout for design ideas or ways that I can use things in different ways. And I don't know, this is probably last week, I took a couple of the kids to Chipotle. And while we were there, the kids, Anna and Audrey, got the kids' meals. And the kids' meals have this little bag of chips. And on this little bag of chips, it had these triangles that built a bigger triangle. And I saw that and I was like, oh, that is something that I could do with these diamonds, is cut them up and build a triangle. You know, if I cut this in half right here, then that becomes this shape, and it could repeat on there. And I knew that some of them obviously have words on them, so you can't really, I mean, you probably could cut right across the center and some would be up and down. So some of these would work for that. Obviously some of them wouldn't, but it's the idea of paying attention, right? And being on the lookout for what can you find that's existing in the world that has nothing to do with the story you might be telling, but that might be a fun design idea to play with. So I just wanted to mention that here. I also like including stuff like this in my album itself, and I haven't done that as much this year, probably because I've been at home a lot. We haven't really been doing a lot of outside activities, but these kinds of things can easily go in your album, which is part of the fun of having a ringed album where you can just punch holes and stick something in the album. So all that to say, what I decided to do, I figured initially when I saw these products, you know, I saw these in the design phase, and then when I actually got them in my hands, I pretty much figured that I would do something with all of them together. So that's kind of the idea of clustering, of repetition, of kind of the more the merrier in design, in terms of, you know, going for mass quantity versus a single one. And these diamonds can work in both ways. So you could bring them all together in some way or another, or you could just use one. And I think for the story today, I'm just gonna use one, and I wanna put it right in the center of my journaling, because as I told you guys, and so these will probably show up again. That's kind of what I'm thinking about them right now. In some way or another. I just believe that that will happen. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this, I'm gonna staple this on there, and then at first I envisioned that I was going to draw lines like I did the other day. So you guys remember back on whatever day this was, where I had my half circle day where I drew lines and then had my journaling inside there. So I'm thinking that I will do something similar to that. Today, I think for creating my lines, rather than draw them, I think I'm gonna use my sewing machine. So I'm gonna use my sewing machine and I'm going to make a border, and then I'm just gonna make some lines, and the lines will go around. I'm gonna staple this on there first, and then the lines will go around there, and then I will handwrite my journaling onto the card, again, that's talking about while you were away, or what do we do when the kids aren't here during the holiday season, essentially. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on that. And like I said, I think the first thing I'm gonna do is just, I'm gonna staple this in place. Actually, maybe I don't wanna staple it. I'm trying to think. No, I think I'm gonna staple it in place, and then I will just do the stitching with to create the lines. I'll do the stitching on the sewing machine, and it will either kind of get close to it or go over the top of it. Oops, that was not a good one. Redo. Get it out of there. So I have red stitching, or red thread in my sewing machine right now, and I just use a Brother, it's a Brother XL 2600i. I've had it for, I don't know, a number of years now, and it has worked just fine for me. I don't sew regularly, so I sew, I only sew on paper. Okay, we got an issue here. To do something and do it on a different piece of paper first. I only sew on paper. I don't do, whoops, it's probably because I need more staples. Only sew on paper, I don't sew on fabric, that's what I was trying to say. And that's just is what I do. And I know for me, having the sewing machine out is the only way that I will use it. If I have to put it away, then it does not get used. So I think what I'll do when I get to that point is I will turn my camera around and have it over there so you guys can see a little bit more about how I use that sewing machine. Okay, third time is a charm. Yes, that should have been easy from the beginning. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna move my camera over, get it set up, and then I'll show you how I stitch the lines on there. Okay, so here's my sewing machine setup. Again, this is a Brother XL 2600i. I think this model is still available. It's been great, works totally fine. I am not someone that knows a lot about sewing, and so I just have a regular needle, on there. I use regular thread, and I can cut, you know, I adjust the settings based on what it says on there. So normally I'm just doing straight stitch. I don't do a lot of really kind of fancy sorts of things on here. And like I said, I have red thread in there right now. So I'm gonna start by doing the border first. And this is just gonna go around just like I would normally do. Helps if you turn it on. Or maybe it's not plugged in, of course. Okay, so now I think we've got it going. Here we go. And then I'm just gonna, when I get to the edge here, whoops, or close to it, I don't really care if, you know, this is totally not a perfect thing for me. And I don't need it to be perfect either on here, which is part of the reason why you would even do something by hand, like this is gonna have a little jagged edge there, which I'm totally fine with. And then I'm leaving the needle down when I turn it around, and then I'm putting the presser foot back down. And then I usually reverse just right on the edge there. Okay, and so now I'm pulling it out, and I'm gonna do the cross lines next. I think for me what I like about the stitching on there is it just adds a little bit more texture, right? Texture to the page, texture to the book. It's repeating stitching that I've done in other places throughout the album that you've either seen so far that you'll see coming up. Let's see, let's get that in. Looks like that's kind of tangled in there. Okay, so here's what that ended up looking like with the stitching on there. I like it. I think it looks good, and it looks cool next to this one, and it just happens to be Aaron's tag there, which I hope to have him fill out this year. So what I'm gonna do next is just go ahead and go in and input the story of what we do while they are away. And I'm just gonna start by putting the date on here, which is the 14th. And you know, some days I'm putting the big numbers on there, some days I'm not. It just kind of depends on what's happening. I think in this case, again, going for a little bit of simplicity, I'm gonna leave it off. I could easily add it to the top, but I think I might just leave that photo as it is too, and then have the date right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and write that out directly on here, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. All right, so here's what I ended up with, where I just wrote, you know, while the kids are away, we watch Netflix shows late into the night, sit together at the table and listen to music and put puzzles together, go shopping at Costco to restock, because when you have 5 kids, you have to go to Costco a lot. Sometimes we go out to dinner, and if we do that, we usually go to sushi or Thai. We drink wine. Sometimes we both have work to do, but usually we just hang out together. So I think that's kind of a fun story about, you know, what life is like right now, and probably in our case, you know, someday when kids are not here as much, we'll probably be doing similar kinds of stuff. It's nice to be able to have these things that we do together. So I think I'm gonna leave that just like that. I don't think that I'm gonna add anything to that photo up above. Maybe I will though. I'm gonna look through some of the embellishments from the kit and see if there's something that I wanna use on this page. Okay, so I think to just make it a little more Christmassy, I think that I will add some of these gold stars on there. Just gonna see if one of these the gold foil circles, if there was one of those that, one of these, something that I could just add to the top there. Maybe the Mary, maybe the Noel that's more neutral. No, I think I'm gonna save those. These would look cool like all on a tree, you know, like if you had a tree sort of thing. Or made a tree, 3, 2, 1 tree. That's what happens is you start thinking as you go. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out, and I think I'm just gonna adhere some of these gold, which again plays into the gold that's over there, and the gold that's gonna be on the next story. So I'm gonna pull out a couple of these gold stars. Actually, I'm just gonna, and as many of you guys know, I like to do things in 3s. So I think I'll do, let's see, or maybe 2 is enough. I kind of wondered if I wanted to put one down there. That kind of brings it all together. Probably adhere it just on top of the, even on top of the staple there. So you can do a couple things with these. You can staple those on there. You can use a glue pen, which is what I'm gonna use, if I can figure out which one of my glue pens is working the best right now. This one was fine. And I just put a little, get a little bit on the back there. And then you can even lift it up with your finger still before you set it down on the photo. And I'm just squeezing a little bit on the tip to just get a little bit on there. So probably this one's gonna end up being dried out. Okay, so there's those two. Let's see, do I want to put a third one on here? I think I want to do it on top of the other ones so that I have it spread out a little bit across the two things. So a couple of just general thoughts. One is, I think it's a good reminder that there are simple ways to do things as well as more complicated ways to do things, and you can decide based on, I'm just gonna stick that right on top of that staple there. You can decide based on the amount of time you have, how much time do you want to invest in this project at any given point in time. Like, it would have been simpler and taken less time for me to hand draw those lines than to use the sewing machine, but I'm glad I used the sewing machine because I really like how it turned out, and I did have a little bit more time this morning to be able to put that together. So that, I'm gonna let that just sit out for a minute. So that's a look at day 14. I'll be back tomorrow with day 15.